What's up, everybody? My name's Pantspace, and this is my guide to ICC for Shadowpriest. So I really want to dive into the different bosses to help you guys understand what you can do to play safely, but also to maximize your DPS. So that's what I'm going to be trying to cover in this guide. The first thing that I want to start with, though, is going to be talents, because depending on your gearing, your talents can change and they can fluctuate, and they don't have to. This really is a playstyle preference. It will probably yield you more DPS and more survivability, but I guess depending on how you want to go about it, it could also do the opposite. So let's talk about it. Here is the standard talent setup that I would recommend just in your normal everyday gear. Now, there has been talk about switching 2 points out of Focus Mind and putting them into improved Vampiric Embrace. This is nice, but something that I actually found out in the first few weeks of ICC is that as my gear got better, as I went from a lot of the Spirit haste gear that we have in Trial of the Grand Crusader to the haste crit gear that is in ICC, I was actually having a lot of mana problems, specifically on the fights where you're mind searing or multi-dotting a lot. So that would be Lady Deathwhisper, Professor Putricide, Heroic Lich King, all really had mana problems. So even though I started my rating with improved Vampiric Embrace for progression week, after that, I switched those points right back into Focus Mind because I was like, holy crap, I need this mana. Now, which one you pick doesn't really matter. Improved VE is nice for your own personal survivability. It's not going to help your group out a ton. I'd say Lady Deathwhisper is probably the fight that it does the most because you get that damage amp, so your healing gets amplified by that as well. As you gear up and as you get that tier 10 4-piece, something you can do is drop all 5 points from improved Mind Blast. Now what we can do is put those again into improved Vampiric Embrace and get that final point in Focus Mind. This leaves us with 2 other points that it's kind of really hard to figure out where these can go and provide some use. So just looking at the Shadow Tree, Shadow Affinity just reduces our threat, not a big deal. We don't care about reducing the cooldown of Psychic Scream. Again, we could just put him back into improved Mind Blast. That's not the worst spot, but it's also not the best. Psychic Horror is a stun that most enemies tend to be immune to, so it doesn't really help us out here. In the Disc Tree, Unbreakable Will reduces the duration of stun, fear, and silences, which there's a few in ICC, but again, not really great points there. Silent Resolve reduces the threat by your Holy and Discipline spells. Doesn't really do a whole lot. You can kind of see where I'm getting at. There's just not a whole lot to do. So I think these final 2 points, you just kind of use how you want to. Healing Focus could actually be nice, reducing the pushback suffered from when casting healing spells. And really, if you have to him, that's kind of the point. I have to him as Shadow on, I'd say, Blood Queen and Heroic Lich King are the times when I tend to him. Really just if they're called for, but those fights can have pushback. I guess not Heroic Lich King so much, but Blood Queen definitely does. So if you're hemming, it could be nice to not have that, but I mean, you might be thinking, hey, I'm a Shadow Priest, I don't heal, which, all right, good for you, man. So you can see these final 2 points, kind of put them wherever you want, that ever suits you. You can just put them right back into improved Mind Blast. I don't think that's a bad use of them. I don't think any of these are necessarily bad. I don't think there's necessarily a great use. And then the final spec to talk about is this Enlightenment Spec. So what are we doing here? We're taking some points out of Dispersion, out of Twisted Faith, out of Pain and Suffering, and Improved Shadow Form, and then going further down into the Disc Tree. Now, why would we do this? This sims about 200 to 300 DPS higher than the standard spec that I just showed you in full tier 10 BIS. So that's full BIS from ICC. Now, is this good? It depends. I think probably not. I think it's bait. I think 99% of you should not use this, should not even consider this spec. What is it good for, though? It's good for parsing. It's good for if you want to try to beat Scug and get that next 100 parse on a fight, that's the spec that you want to run. But it does kind of suck. You only have a 33% chance to to refresh your Mind Flay, or refresh your Shadow Word Pain with Mind Flay. There we go. You only have 50% pushback, or 35% pushback from improved Shadow Form. So you're going to get pushback on every fight that has AoE damage, and there's a lot of them. And you also don't have Dispersion, which means if you mess up somewhere and you kind of have this, oh shit, I'm about to die moment, well, guess what? There's nothing you can do about it and just pray that you live. So I don't know that I recommend it. I love Dispersion. Even if I don't plan on using it in any fight, it's still nice to have. So all things to consider about this talent spec. Again, use it at your own risk. I can't say I recommend it, but hey, if you're trying to parse, go for it. Have some fun. Just try to have another spec lined up in case it doesn't go well. And if you're somebody who heals, if you ever off-spec a hole of your disc on a fight, then I definitely would not recommend this. You don't want this to be your only shadow spec. You're going to really hate yourself if you, I promise you that. If this is your only spec that you're using for every fight that you're not healing in ICC, you're really not going to have a good time. Okay, we got all of that out of the way for talents. Let's go into the actual fights. So this is a stream of mine from yesterday, actually, when I raided with Nota on my main EU priest. I didn't play particularly well, but the point isn't about how I played. I just want to talk about what you should do, one, to maximize your safety and your raid safety, and then two, how to parse. Not always do those things go hand in hand, but for a lot of times it's just like playing safe is generally going to yield you the highest DPS. Again, not always, but I'll try to let you know when we're going to differentiate those two. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. So this is Lord Marrowgar. I'm going to, actually, hold on one second before we start. I'm just going to speed up the speed. We'll go 1.5. That should be good enough. So really, playing safe here is just being careful with Bone Storm. You want to kill the bone spikes as soon as they spawn, and then you're just single targeting Marrowgar. Bone Storm, if you're not aware, deals more damage the closer you are to Marrowgar as he's spinning. So you want to stand further away. So you want to make sure that your soakers are gonna, like, if these are your soakers, your raid's gonna be right in the middle so that Marrowgar goes between them, and that his furthest, well, I guess your middle point is always gonna be like equidistant from the boss, if that makes sense, outside of when he's passing through. So really, this is a single target fight, and the way you parse is using the Glyph of Mindseer. So using the Glyph of Mindseer is going to be really good for the bone spikes. Not in this phase. We'll wait till he like stops spinning. When he stops spinning, if everybody's stacked up on his butt, then you can just Mindseer right off of the boss, and you'll hit all 3 spikes with Mindseer, and that's going to be what you want to do to parse. And then you just single target the boss. That's really it. It's a pretty simple fight. If you've done it, just don't stand in the fire. The fire really hurts. I'll wait till we get some bone spikes so that you can see me Mindseering. Hopefully it happens soon. That's really the fight, though. It's super simple. It does do a lot of damage. Those are really shitty bone spikes. So that can happen too if people are out of position. So that's going to hurt your parse if that happens. There is something weird on details. So I think on this fight, for instance, I parsed like 11.6, 11.7K. You can see the details in the bottom right is 10.5 right now. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's bone spike damage or something that's not registering. You can see there, I just Mindseered to hit all 3 spikes. All right. Anyway, let's move on to Lady Deathwhisper. So this fight is going to be all about how you do the ads. That's going to be whether you can parse or not, or that's going to determine whether you can parse or not. So if your ads are stacked up on the boss, this is super simple to parse. You literally single target the boss, and then you just Mindseer like crazy, like I'm doing here. I'm actually going to slow this down. I feel like this is a little bit too fast. Let's go 1.25. So you can see I'm just Mindseering off of the boss. The ads are getting gripped in. They're chasing some of the melee around. Like, they're dead. And people haven't even gotten mind controlled yet. Now, the scary part is if your ads take a long time to die and I was still Mindseering here, I can kill all these people, you know, maybe not the people who get cycloned, but it's very easy for if I'm Mindseering, if your locks are seeding, if your warriors are cleaving to hit the boss and the ads, your friends that get mind controlled are just going to die instantly. So you really got to be careful about that. The parse strat is to just Mindseer like crazy, like I'm going to do here. But it's also, you want the ads to die ASAP so that you can Mindseer for the entire time they're up, because you do want to stop AoEing as soon as people get mind controlled. Now in this phase, it's literally, again, single target the boss, Mindseer the ads once they get grouped up on the boss, and then to just dodge the ghosts. Really, for parsing, don't get mind controlled. I think I got mind controlled and I lost about 1k DPS. So it really does suck. It's about 10 seconds. I think it's 10, might be a little bit longer. But for parsing, you really want to get your ads grouped up on the boss so that you can just Mindseer off of her. If they're not grouped up, you can just put on dots and then either single target or Mindseer. It'll kind of depend. It's kind of a judgment call. But you know, if your Mindseer is hitting at least 2 targets, if you don't have the tier 10 4 piece, then you want to Mindseer. If you do have the tier 10 4 piece, I think it's going to be better to single target with Mindflay than to hit 2 targets with Mindseer. And that's really the fight. See, I get mind controlled here. I'm pretty upset because I was pumping. It felt really good. to pump, and then of course you get mind control just before the boss dies. I guess 50%, whatever. Anyway, that's really the fight in a nutshell. Dodge the ghosts, AoE the ads, kill the boss. All right, cool. Let's go to the next fight. The next fight is a joke. It's just Gunship. The one thing I will say about Gunship is if you're someone in the cannon like I am now, just like aim for the guys in the furthest back. Make sure you build up your cannon energy to above 90 before you hit the 2 button. And then you can also try to aim for what's called the sorcerer when they spawn to try to just do a little bit faster damage to them. So if you didn't know, you can distract the sorcerer with a rogue, and then she won't actually cast her spell. You can kill her before she gets out of that. So it's just a nice little bonus to not have to get out of the cannon. And that's really it. Okay, cool. Moving on to Saurfang. Let's see. I think we had some trouble. Oh, some people got stuck on the boat. The other boat, that's why. Okay, here we go. All right, on the pull, you know, Shadowfiend, Lust, do your stuff. Do what you normally do. The ads spawn every 40 seconds. So this is really just a single target fight with killing some ads that spawn every 40 seconds. Now, some things to be aware of. If you want to parse, you want to VT a bunch of the ads and then try to single target them off. I mean, really, actually, you probably don't even want a single target, but VTing the ads is really good for damage. I will say Mind Flays are really good slow for any that get into range that aren't being slowed. So like if your icy chains fall off from your DK or, you know, whatever, it's like what I try to do on the ads is I will find the ones with the highest health and then just Mind Flay them to help, one, slow them, to help, two, obviously kill them. Try to make sure that they don't make it to ranged. Oh, sorry. They can be pretty deadly, and they'll one-shot most classes. So especially if you're Shadow and it gets to you, you can either fade or disperse. Fade can be scary because if, for instance, one of these guys who's right next to me is second highest on threat and the Blood Beast is like right here, if I fade, it'll just turn and one-shot this guy, and he won't realize that it's coming to him because, again, I have threat, not him. So that's just something to keep an eye out for. Just try not to kill your friends with fade. Disperse is really good if you either use it for boiling blood so that you're doing less, or you're taking less damage, which means Saurfang's getting less blood power. Or you can save it for if you potentially get a mark. Shadowpriest is really good to get the mark because we have a lot of self-healing. We have 16% damage reduction from Shadow form. So yeah, if you're trying to parse, really the goal is just to VT up all of the ads and then probably single target the boss. You don't even want to single target the ads. I would really highly recommend away from that, at least in the first few weeks. Try to help slow the ads, help kill them so that your friends don't get killed instead. And that's really it. You know, use your Shadowfiend on cooldown. Mana can be a little bit tight. Again, if you're using the improved VE spec without Focused Mind and you have a lot of haste crit pieces. So just keep in mind your mana. It should be fine, but I just know that I've had some issues depending on the fight length. Okay, that's about it. Let's carry on. We have Stinky, which can be a boss sometimes. I had a 10-man that wiped a Stinky and Precious. All right, let's go back to the beginning of Rotface. Oh, by the way, I think I forgot to mention it. On all of these fights so far, I am Shadow Fiending on pull. I'll put this somewhere in the video, or I'll put this in like text at the start. I'm Shadow Fiending on pull despite talking about mana. Pretty much every fight you're lusting on pull. So you want to make sure that your Shadow Fiend is one of your first globals, if not your first, so that it benefits from lust and does a lot of damage to start the fight. Okay, anyway, let's start with Rotface. So Rotface is the guy. Before actually we start, let's talk about his room. So he's going to have slime that comes out of the side of the walls, right? On your first pull, if you don't wipe, it's going to start in a counterclockwise formation. So it's going to start in the right here, and then the top right, and then the back left, and then the front left. It seems to change if you wipe the pattern that happens, but on your first pull of an instance on a fresh ICC, it does seem to always be these first four. And then I think from here, it goes diagonally across. I forget what the pattern is. But anyway, on your first pull, you always want to go stand to the left because, again, if the slime is going around, the left is going to be the last quadrant that fills up. So it's just something that's a good excuse me, it's something that's a good practice to get into, just starting the fight on the left. Okay. Other than that, it's really just a single target fight. Really, the goal here is to try to deal as much damage to Rotface while moving the least amount. You can see we lust on pull, and now I'm just mind playing my face off. I don't think this was a particularly good parse. I think this might have been a little bit of a messy kill. So the few things that Shadow is going for. One, with improved Shadow form, our fade removes the dot that is created from the slime. So if you're not aware, when you stand in this slime that just spawned, you get a stacking debuff that deals damage, and at 10 stacks, you cannot move. So fade will remove that because it's classified as a root, and so will dispersion. Again, fade only works if you have improved Shadow form. So you can use fade or dispersion to get out of that so that you're not stuck standing in that dot. With improved VE and with the passive damage reduction of Shadow form, you can just tank the his like frontal AoE when he like spits the slime at people. It doesn't deal a ton of damage. It could potentially kill you if this big ooze is behind you, because that deals a lot of damage. Otherwise, this is just a single target fight. So just try your best to not take a lot of damage. Don't get the infection, because then you have to run and move and go deal with mechanics. So if you want to parse, just avoid the mechanics. Obviously, that's easy, right? But this really is just a single target fight. There's not a whole lot of min-max other than just making sure you don't have to move too much, or when you do move, you're maximizing those globals with a Shadow or Death or a Devouring Plague. All right, that's kind of it. Let's go to his brother Festergut boy. Not quite there yet. Festergut is obviously very similar. It's still a single target fight. The thing here is Dispersion soaking. You can soak his Pungent Blight, which is his big AoE ability that you get the spores for. So if you don't collect spores, you can just Dispersion it. Now, whether that saves you DPS or not is just going to be dependent upon how fast you Dispersion. In this kill, I don't Dispersion. I'm actually an idiot. I forget to. By the time I remember, it's too late. I'm like, I go to hit it, and I'm GCD locked, and I just can't press the button. So I don't even get to show you it here, but in my other videos and pretty much every other kill of this fight I've done, I soak Dispersion, or I'm sorry, I soak Pungent Blight with Dispersion. You can see I'm also going to get hit by Vile Gas a bunch. That's just the RNG nature of this fight. There are some dumb fights with RNG, whether it's Vile Gas on this fight or getting MC'd on Lady Deathwhisper, where no matter how badly you want to parse and just like stand still and pump, sometimes the mechanics just decide to fuck you. So it's unfortunate, but this fight is really just single target. There's not a whole lot of min-max you can do. You can see I get Vile Gas for the first time here, and that just continues to happen throughout the fight. So that's it. It's just single target. There's not a whole lot you can do. There's not a whole lot of min-max. Just try to do your best to not get mechanics. Easy. I'll wait till I die so you can see me being an idiot. It's going to be at like 40%-ish. Maybe I'll fast forward a little bit. That might have been too far. Oh, there we go. I'm already dead. So Pungent Blight gets casted. I hit Dispersion like pretty much as the Pungent Blight was going off. So I'm a big idiot. Don't do that. Sip of coffee, and we go back. Okay. That's really it, though. There's not a whole lot of min-max. It's a single target fight. Don't get mechanics. All right, next up, we have PP, otherwise known as Professor Putricide. So this is a fun fight. Really here, you want to maximize your dot uptime. Now, I guess one thing I'm going to talk about, all these fights are heroic, which again, I will put at the beginning. This is like the first fight where the normal and the heroic version are slightly different, where in the normal version, you get stunned during the intermission, you don't have ads to deal with. Nothing you can really do about it. There are some classes that can get out of it. Shadowpriest is not one of them as far as I'm aware. I have only done this fight on normal a few times, so it's not really where my experience is. So I'm going to talk about this from the heroic perspective. Really, this fight is one, positioning, so making sure you're a safe distance away from Putricide so you have time to dodge mechanics so that you don't kill other people. And then two is maintaining your dots on Putricide and the slimes that spawn. I don't know that this was a particularly good kill of mine. And that kind of seems to be the case with a lot of these nota kills. They're not necessarily speedrunning, but they're going fast in the dungeon, which is something I'm not used to. So it's a bit of a learning curve for me. Anyway, as soon as the ads spawn, make sure you get your dots on them. Whether you put your Devouring Plague on it doesn't really matter. You probably would want to leave it on Putricide from a parsing perspective. For actual raid damage, though, you do want the oozes to die ASAP, so it's always good to keep your dots on that. One thing about the gas variable, so I don't know if I try to do it here. I get the orange variable, which means I can only attack the orange gas cloud here. When they first spawn, you can actually put dots onto either one and deal damage to it. So the way it works is when they first spawn, it's almost like you need like a server tick in the game before this debuff is actually active on your character, which means when they first spawn, you basically have one global where you can try to put dots up. So I don't know that I do it here. I've done it in other kills, but essentially, even though I have the orange variable, if I targeted the green ooze, I could have put up a VT and a Shadow Word Pain. So it's like I cast VT, and then as soon as that's done, I cast Shadow Word Pain onto the green ooze, and they will deal full damage. If you do it too late, they will tick for like 1 damage a piece. But if you do it early enough, you will get full damage. So just something to keep in mind. If your one ooze is dying a little bit slower, you can just try to get that extra damage, and then you can keep refreshing that Shadow Word Pain if you want to. Otherwise, target your ooze. It's going to be the orange for me. I put up my dots. I think I try to maintain my dots on Professor Putricide. That's really a parsing play. There's not really a point to maintaining your dots, at least for the first intermission. You know, damage doesn't really matter until 35% and below, which is going to be the second intermission. So maintaining your dots here is fun from a parsing perspective, but doesn't really do much to help the raid. I will say now we have our ranged group up. And the reason for is that when the malleable goo come out, it can be hard to judge where they're going to land. So if all your ranged are grouped up, it makes it really easy to judge. Everybody dodges, and then you just kind of come and group back up together. I will say it just makes it a lot easier. You can see we all dodge, we just run, and then we group back up right behind those little puddles. Makes it a lot easier to dodge mechanics. Dodging mechanics can be really hard. If you have range that are too close to melee, those malleable goos will actually will hit in melee and will just pretty much like one-shot them because you'll probably have like 2 or 3 of them just hit everybody in melee, and you're just gonna have a ton of people dead really quickly. You can see I'm actually not with the range stack right here. I do work my way over there. This fight really is just doing your best to maximize your movement and do mechanics at the same time. The plague is pretty easy to deal with. You can either sacrifice the person and just soulstone them, or you can pick somebody who you're just going to keep soulstoning over and over again to die with it, because if somebody dies, the plague doesn't jump. Or you just keep passing it. So passing the plague is not too difficult to deal with. You can usually get up to 10 stacks, and if you want to dispersion soak it, you can even like get up to stacks that would normally kill you, but just take it for an extra 6 seconds doing that. And that's kind of it. Well, I mean, I'll wait till we get further in the fight. This guy is pretty easy from a DPS perspective. It's just there's a lot of mechanics going on. So when you're wiping and like progressing the fight, there's not going to be a whole lot you can do to really min-max your performance. It's really just like the tanks and the healers figuring out what they need to do. Again, so you can see, I think I do it here. So you can see I have the orange debuff. I'm attacking the green ooze, so I put up a VT. And a Shadow Word Pain. Let's see. So, okay, hold on. So you can see I did 4.5k, but you can also see I did 1. So I'm going to slow this down a second just so you guys can see. Oh, that's not where I want to go. Let's go 0.75. And then, okay, so my dots are on there. So there's a 1 and then a 4.5k. Oh, I guess I got targeted by the red. Okay, so essentially my Shadow Word Pain is dealing 1 damage, but my Vampiric Touch was dealing full damage. So I kind of got the timing right a little bit, but it's just something to keep in mind that you can deal full damage on the first global if you get it on the opposite ooze. Anyway, let me adjust the speed back. And cool. And then here, this is when you want to make sure you're maximizing your dots on your target. So I got targeted by the green ooze, which messed me up a little bit, but here you want to make sure you're multi-dotting your ooze that you're attacking and Putricide. sub 35% is just a DPS race. So the more DPS you can do, it actually is really beneficial to kill him fast. Again, we have all the ranged group up. It just gives us more space and allows easier judgments for where the malleable goos are going to be. I can't say that we particularly play this well, or I think we get a lot of goo in range. So I can't say I play this particularly well. I think I kind of like mess up towards the end a little bit. I think I just get out of position. I think here positioning is really the key to this fight, is trying to be in a safe spot where you can do your rotation, but also if mechanics come, you can easily dodge them. You know where you're running to avoid them, and you can just do your best to keep pumping on the boss. That's really the name of this game, is uptime. So as long as you're in a position where you can keep damaging the boss, you are really set up for success. And if you're not, then your damage is going to suffer for it. You can see like those goos were just really close. We kind of got boxed in there, but you know, the boss is dead. We got a tiny A-bomb. We're happy. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next one. So Blood Prince Council. This is a fun one. Blood Prince is very similar to Putricide in the sense that it's all about your positioning. Now, oh, this fight's funny. I get targeted by the Conjured Flame Orb 3 times in a row, which it's going to be really bad. I just used Dispersion to restore mana. I'm going to regret that decision for when the fight starts in like a minute. So this fight, again, is all about positioning. So the way the fight works is you have 3 princes, but it's a single target fight. It's not a multi-target cleaving fight like the Black Temple Council fight. Here, what you want to do is position yourself to try to just be like in the middle of the room and always be able to reach the boss that you're going to attack. You can move freely without taking too much damage. Again, Shadow has really good passive damage reduction and healing, so you are one of the tankier ranged classes. Let's actually just fast forward and we can show you how the fight goes. So Valinar, I think it's Valinar is the first one. He is going to have, oh no, I'm wrong. What's his name? Oh no, it is Valinar. Okay. He's going to create a shock vortex around everybody. So this is just the spread out boss. Make sure that everybody is, I think it's 8 yards. You're not within 8 yards of anybody. You can see we're all fairly spread to start the fight. Positioning is really important. That's the name of the game for this fight is positioning. One mechanic that I want to talk about is the fire cone that he just sent out. So you can see everybody is blue. That's because they have a debuff. The debuff is a dot that also slows people. And the fact that movement is so important, you want to make sure that people aren't slowed. So if you're a good Shadow Priest like I am, you will cast Mass Dispel and just try to help out. Obviously, your Disc Priest is going to be the person who is getting most of the dispels, but if you can help out, it's going to help the raid a lot. The other thing to talk about are the bombs that come down from the sky. Shadow's really bad at dealing with those because none of our instant damage actually, or I'm sorry, none of our direct damage actually counts as direct damage for this purpose. So Mind Flay doesn't work, Improved Devouring Plague doesn't work. The only spells that we can actually use to keep the orbs in the air are Mind Blast and Shadowy Death, which both have cooldowns. So outside of those, you have to wand to hit them. So in 10-man, that's something to keep in mind. But like Shadow's going to be really bad at dealing with the bombs. You can do it. It's just not the best class for it. You want a Boomy or a Hunter or a Warlock. They're all a lot better at doing it. Anyway, let's get back to the fight. So you can see that's a shock vortex go out. Everybody is still spread, trying to play safe. Single target, really just do your rotation. Not a whole lot here. I will say I think the optimization really comes for how you handle the fire boss. So we're going to stack in the middle, pretty much where that Warlock portal is to my right. And you can see I'm going to get targeted by this flame orb 3 times in a row. So I thought I had Dispersion here. I don't know if you can see me pressing it down below. I almost died there because I forgot my Dispersion was on cooldown from using it pre-pull for mana, which again, told you I would regret. I'm going to get targeted again. I run out. This time I do have Dispersion. So I saved myself. Although that one probably wouldn't have hit me or hurt that bad. You can see I have 25 stacks of Shadow Prison. I'm like, surely there's no way I'm going to get targeted by this ability again. Luckily my stacks do fall off before I start running, and I'm just like, what the hell is happening? So RNG can be against you on this fight again, which is a lot of these fights. And then that's really it. That's kind of the most dangerous guy. When it's on the Shadow boss, you just have to hope your tank doesn't die. You need to keep an eye out for, let's go back a second, for these little shock vortexes that are going to spawn on the ground. So they have a pretty small and hard to see. So you can see it's just this little vortex thingy that's like under these nameplates, which, sorry, those are in the way. It can be really hard to see when they first spawn. Those are going to send you flying across the room. And those are what Valinar uses when he's not creating the shock vortex around everybody. So just make sure you're not getting sent away or like getting like thrown across the room because one of these spawns on you and you didn't see it. So just keep your eyes open. And then it's just a single target fight. This is really just single target. Make sure you get your dots up on each new target. There's no like snapshot shenanigans or anything. Again, our dots are, or at least Shadow or Pain's really weak. I think Warlocks might do something with corruption where they put it on multiple targets and they try to like, you try to like gamble whether it's going to go to the target that you have like your corruption on or something. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, it's just a single target fight. So do your best to survive and not get targeted by the Conjured Flame Orb 3 times. Okay, yeah, and Mass Dispel. Keep doing that. That's, oh, you can see we all get knocked. This fight got a little bit sloppy. It's always better to play safe than to maximize your own personal DPS. I'm a huge advocate for that. But, you know, I know a lot of you just want to parse, and that's fine. So just try not to kill your raid in the process. All right, let's go to Blood Queen. Blood Queen is really just a single target fight. The bites don't matter. Don't be super mad whether you get bit first or last. The bites actually get normalized in logs, which means if anything, getting bitten is going to be worse for your damage because now you have to deal with mechanics. You have to go run and bite people. And when you have to bite somebody, you can't actually, your action bar changes and you can't cast any spells. So that actually causes downtime in the fight. So honestly, if you want to parse, you will never get bitten. That is how you parse this fight. This Fear Ward Weakauras, which I'll include in the video description, is huge. I always forget to Fear Ward. You want to Fear Ward right on pull. That's going to allow you to have Fear Ward up for the first fear and then also recast in time for the second. So just something to keep in mind, having Fear Ward for when she goes up in the air and fears is really good so that you can help mass dispel people. The other thing you can do is you can put it on a shaman so that they can try to tick their tremor totem. I feel like doing it on the priest is just better since mass dispel is just so much easier to control. But you know, if your shaman's up to it, then why not let them have a go at it? But then you don't get Fear Ward yourself. So a lot of ways to handle it. Otherwise, just find your spot, plant yourself, and play safe. If you get Swarming Shadows, which I don't know if I do here, that's just going to be the debuff that drops fire. Just run it to the outside of the room. If you get the 3 links, just make sure you meet up with the people that you're linked to in the middle of the room. And other than that, just pump the boss. This is really simple. I would say Shadow is a good class to get bitten. Like, you're not going to be the first class to get it because of the passive 30% threat reduction from Shadow form. But you know, the fact that our healing scales off of our damage and you get a ton of damage means from the bite means that you're really good at passive healing your group. So you can see I have the hunters and the mages in my group. The hunters are, you know, I think not too like medium tankiness, but you know, the mages are pretty squishy. So the reason I'm in the group with them is to help them make sure that they don't die, really. Just give them a little bit extra passive healing throughout the fight. And then, yeah, make sure you're spread for her blood bolts because those will target somebody in AoE. And then again, it's really just single target fight. Lots of these fights are just single target. So there's not a whole lot you can do to maximize your damage a ton other than be really good at the rotation. I think that's it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm going to take a sip of coffee while I think in silence. No, that's all I got. Okay, let's move on. I think Valithria is going to be next. We're still doing Blood Queen. Oh, I guess one other thing I'll say about Blood Queen is if you have your assignments, like if you know who you're going to bite, obviously before the fight starts, what I like to do is, this is my focus target, Vasco Fowl. He's the boomy here. I know that I'm getting bit on the 3rd set of bites, and then I'm biting him as the 4th set of bites, and then we lust and kill the boss after. So there's no more bites. So basically, he's my only bite. I always make him my focus target, whoever my first bite is. Because even though he's pretty easy to see, he's a boomy. It's so much easier instead of like trying to like click his, oh, I just clicked the screen. Instead of trying to like click his player model, I can just click this frame when I'm next to him and then press my 1 button to bite. So actually, let me just fast forward to that. I think I actually do click his model here. So you can see I get the debuff. Oh, he's actually standing right next to me. So there's not as much time as I thought. Hold on 1 second. So I'm hungry, my action bar changes. I have nothing here except bite at number 1. So you can see I do click in my mouse over, but it's like everybody's pretty positioned. Everybody's positioned pretty well. So, you know, there's not a whole lot of running around to do, but I know if you're doing a pug, if you're doing a GDKP, things can be a little bit more wild. I just like having a focus target. You could also do a mouse over focus target. So it's like if there's somebody who I need to bite next, let's just say hypothetically, I was going to bite Serbula. You know, if you have a mouse over focus target, you can just mouse over your frames here, click that button, and then your focus will change from, you know, Vasco to Serbula. So just something to keep in mind. It's just an easy way to like kind of keep track of whoever you're going to bite next. All right, that's that fight. We can move on. Next is Valithria. So Valithria, I'm healing for. I think most Shadow Priests will be healing. If you're not healing, it's just AoE. You know, just kill the things. The Blazing Skeletons are the most important thing to kill because they do an AoE. The suppressors are going to do a lot of damage to Valithria, so you want to kill them. The rotworms that spawn out of the corpse of the A-bombs can, you know, kill people pretty quickly, so kill them. If you're flying in the portal, which is what I'm going to talk about here, I'm going to talk about how we do that. So basically, I'm playing Disc here. I will be playing Holy in future weeks, but I happen to have a Disc spec for today. If you're playing Disc, what I would say is you want to just find one of your Holy Paladins, PI them on pull, and then on cooldown after that. They're going to be doing the majority of your healing, and that's who you really want to be focused with, or focus on, like, empowering. So I'm playing Disc. I'm just flash healing and penancing the boss. We get into the portals phase, and we all try to group up. This is to maximize the amount of portals that everybody is, or the amount of portals that everybody's getting, the amount of the buff. The more that you're grouped together, the more that you share the buff. And it's like if we had everybody spread out, we would run out of the red clouds. So I don't know what like the damage breakdown is so she's going to take damage if you don't soak all of the red clouds, but it's probably better for everybody to have more stacks than to worry about soaking all of the red clouds. I'm being a good boy by running around since the Holy Paladins are really carrying the healing on this fight. I'm just going to run to make sure that I find a portal to get in that's far away from all the other healers, because I know that my healing is going to be the bottom as a priest. Whether I was playing Holy or Disc doesn't really matter. There's not a ton healing difference between them. You can see Tavik, the other priest, is like, he's ahead of me, but like not by a ton. So it's just something to keep in mind that as a priest, you are not going to be the majority of the healing. Well, hopefully you're not. Hopefully your paladins are carrying the load. So you should really do what you can. So it's like, since all the healers kind of landed here, try to get one of the further portals, so that you can see, like, I'm thinking right now, I rocket boots. We messed up. So what we did is we lusted, and we thought we were going to heal her up. And then we realized that we didn't actually have enough healing for it. So we were just trying to pump the boss. So we weren't worried about going into another set of portals, because we were just trying to like speed heal her, I guess. But you can see we didn't quite make it. So we just kept healing from here on out, which kind of sucks when that happens and you lose all your stacks. But I will say it's something that, you know, I think as your gear gets better, you can plan for that. It's just, we thought we could make it and we didn't quite get there. Doesn't really matter. It's a joke of a fight anyway. Sindragosa, I am also healing. I think a lot of the things that apply to healers apply to DPS because of the nature of the debuff. So I can kind of talk about that from a DPS / healing perspective. I have DPS'd it, so it's like I understand both aspects of the fight. Now, depending on how you do the fight, you could either tank her. Hold on. You can either tank her at the stairs, which is actually the entrance to the room, which is the opposite way of where we are right now. So you can see, like, that's the entrance. That's where we ran in from. We actually, in Nota, we fight her on the opposite side. In my guild Welcome on NA, we fight her over here. It doesn't matter. Nothing really changes. The reason you fight her over here is to have more uptime on the boss, I think. I don't think there's any really other reason. So it does give you a little bit more damage. So this is probably if you're parsing, this is what you'd want to do. But there's going to be a debuff that goes out. And if you cast, you'll get stacks of this debuff, and then you will eventually blow up and kill your raid if you are near other people when those stacks expire. So it's something where I just don't cast. If I'm a healer or a DPS, I just don't do anything. If you are trying to maximize your damage or your healing, then you want to be careful of her timer for, oh, what's it called? I forget, but it's her giant sucking ability that she does, because that's going to be what kills you. And if you see my short, which I'll probably put in this video right here. Try something here. Oh no, cast.
Stack high. Stack high. Stack high. Stack high. Stack high. Run out.
Oh fuck. That was okay. Okay, that was me. As long as you blow up your stacks outside of the raid, and you don't hit everybody else, you're probably fine. If you're a class like Shadow that can use Dispersion to soak the damage, if you're a mage, you can Ice Block. There's a few different classes that can do things to mitigate that damage. So as long as you're not hitting other people, it should be fine. And then you're just maximizing your damage in between the debuffs. So it's again, just a single target fight, which with some minor annoyances in the fight. That's it. I'm just bubbling people, basically playing whack-a-mole with Power Word Shield. It's fine. Whatever. You can see I get the debuff. I go blow up because I cast it, and then I run back in. It's really it. I'm just not going to cast, so I'm standing in the group. You don't need to worry about blowing up if you're not casting. So I play it super safe. I just don't want to kill anybody. I don't want to risk it. So you can see we just got sucked in there. I guess Unchained... No, not Unchained Magic. What's... Blistering Cold. So you can see we get sucked in. So as long as you blow up your stacks before you get sucked in like that, so it's like you can see our Demonology Warlock's going to blow up, I think, right there. I don't know if he casts again, but like as long as you blow up before you get sucked in, you're fine. It doesn't really matter. Don't kill yourself, don't kill your friends. That's really the name of the game in phase 1 of Sindragosa. When she goes into the air phase, it's just play safe. Don't get hit by the frost bombs. Line of sight them with the ice tombs that come out. How you do ice tombs is kind of up to you. What I'll say with how we do it here is we have 3 stacks of 2. So we have people just stack on each other. Now you do take damage from both impacts, but what you do is you pre-shield the people who are targeted, and then you just have some hots on them. So you have your Rested Druid put dots, you have Renews on them. They'll get healed to full even after they take damage. Doesn't really matter if you want to do that, or if you want to do 6 separate stack points, or 5, I guess, on normal. And then just dodge these explosions, line of sight them with the ice tombs. That's really it. There's not a whole lot to min-max here. Just don't die. Don't be stupid. Let's just skip to phase 3, because again, there's not a whole lot happening here. So phase 3 happens at 35%. She just sucked us in for Blistering Cold. I got the debuff at the start of phase 2, so I'm just not casting here. The thing is, what happens in phase 3 is she now has this debuff called Magic Buffet, which is just going to be a pulsing AoE every 6 seconds that stacks and deals damage, and then also increases the magic damage you take. So that means that the caster debuff is even now more deadly, because with high stat, or with just stacks of this Magic Buffet debuff, you're going to be taking more damage per stack of the caster debuff. So what that means is, if you get the caster debuff like I have here at Unchained Magic, just don't cast in phase 3. You're going to do a lot of damage to yourself and potentially the raid, and it's not going to be pretty if you do. I think I do damage to the group here. I don't remember. When it comes to healing, I panic a little bit because I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm still pretty new to it. But essentially what you want to do is you line of sight the Ice Tomb. So now the debuff, hold on, let's find it real quick. So the debuff lasts 8 seconds. It's this one right here. I guess it's also right here. It lasts 8 seconds, and she casts it every 6 seconds. I said that wrong. It lasts 8 seconds. She casts it every 8 seconds, but it's going to refresh when there's 2 seconds left of the debuff. So you can see there's 3 seconds left, which means she's going to cast it in 1 second. As long as you're behind the Ice Tomb and you line of sight the same way you did with the Frost Bombs in the beginning of the fight, you will line of sight it and you will not get another stack of it. So you can see in 0.2 seconds, she's going to AoE. You can see it was that like Arcane Explosion that just came out of her. And now I'm safe to move outside of here. There's no reason to, because I still have the Unchained Magic debuff, so I don't want to cast for another 9.5 seconds. But it's just something to note that it's like with 3 seconds left, you can pop behind the ice tomb and then she casts it and then you pop back out. You don't need to be sitting behind the ice tomb for the entire time. I only do if I have Unchained Magic because I'm not going to be casting anyway. So basically I just go and I just sit here. That's it. 20 seconds. I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to cast anyway. So I might as well just not get stacked to this debuff. But you can just sit out here. And if you're DPSing or healing or whatever you're doing, you can, what's it called? You can just keep popping back in and out for whenever that debuff comes out. You see, I start healing now. I don't have the debuff anymore. I might get pretty high stacks of the buff it debuff because again, when I start focusing on healing, I'm like not the most raid aware person that I am when I'm playing Shadow, for instance. I'm just not as comfortable healing. And then that's it. Yeah, just pop in and out, but behind the ice tombs, try to play safe, make sure the ice tombs die. There's not a whole lot to min-max on this fight. Like really the min-max is the RNG of don't get the debuff. Don't get the caster debuff. So you're trying to parse, which is stupid. This fight shouldn't be on all-star points anyway. That's just really what you want. It's just to not get the debuff. All right, she's dead. Let's go on to Lich King. Lich King, I fuck up majorly here. So I was just healing, right? I swap into my DPS spec of Shadow. I forget to swap my gear. So if you look down here, this icon that says disc is my slot. That should be saying Shadow right now, and it doesn't. So I do this fight in my healing gear, which isn't great. So don't make fun of my DPS too badly. This fight is complicated. So I don't want to... this isn't going to be a guide on how to do this fight. I'm just going to talk about purely from a DPS perspective, what you should do to maximize your damage. That's really it. I'm not going to talk about the fight and how to do it. There are guides that do that. I think Take Note has some. I don't know if Jordy does. He probably does. I know Fusion's killed it. That's not the video here. So if you want to, you can watch my kills of it. I'm not going to talk about how to do it. In phase 1, you just want to single target Lich King. So what I like to do is I pre-pot as soon as what's his face dude over here gets frozen. So once he gets frozen, I pre-pot right now, and then I Shadowfiend as my first cooldown. It depends when Lust comes out. Our Lust comes out like 2 to 3 seconds into the fight. So you could probably do a cast first and then Shadowfiend. But it's just pure single target here. There's a lot of ads. You don't want to do anything with them. You don't want to touch them. You don't want to cleave them. You don't want to do anything. All you're doing is single targeting Lich King. That is your job as a Shadow Priest in phase 1. If you get the debuff, what's it called? The Plague, you just go make your way over to the Shamblers, and then you get dispelled, and then you come back to the range group. You want to make sure that you don't hit the shadow traps. Lots of Weakauras, DBM, bigwigs will tell you if there's a trap near you. People will say sometimes if they get targeted, depending on what, I think that might be Foji's Weakaura, I don't know, or it might be DBM, I don't know. Don't hit them because you'll go flying off the map. If you get sent off the edge, you cannot be rezzed. So that's just the one thing that can really hurt your group if you cannot be rezzed. That's really it. We just kite the boss around for a bit until he reaches 70%. There's nothing really of note, just single target boss. Okay, Intermission. What I like to do is he casts Remorseless Winter as we're running out. I like to disperse. 1 usually gets me some mana, which I didn't need because I was in my healing gear. 2, it just prevents any damage from Remorseless Winter. Here, focus on the Raging Spirits. Depending on your group, you might be one of the main people killing the snowballs, as I like to call them, the frost orbs. These will target a player and do pulsing AoE around them. I think I'm going to do a lot of AoE damage here to the group. I wasn't paying attention because I was still mauling over the fact that I was wearing my healing gear. So I was playing like a bit of a dent on this fight. So it's just something that like this fight does require a lot of coordination and a lot of focus. And I did not have that for this kill. Otherwise, kill the spirits, kill the frost orbs, and that's all the intermission is about. You're probably going to have a spirit still alive when you go into phase 2. So just make sure that you don't run in front of them because they have a cone AoE that 1 deals a ton of damage and 2 silences you if you get hit by it. So you want to make sure you're not in front of them. And make sure that you kill the frost orbs because those are similar to the frost or to the shadow traps where they explode and will send you flying off the map if you get hit by them. Other than that, you know, multi-dot, keep your dots up on the spirit, keep your dots up on Lich King. Probably you want to single target the spirit, but maybe not. I don't know. Cleave will kill it. So kind of depends on your group. Now, something else that depends on your group is how many hunters and warlocks you have, because these Valks who flew out here, we don't need to DPS, because if a warlock or hunter gets picked up, they can just teleport, they can disengage back onto the main platform, and they're perfectly fine. This person's star, we have to kill the Shadow Guard, the Valkyr. So the way I approach this, and my DPS is definitely not the best, so there's probably people that know better than me. I honestly forget about my dots on Lich King. I play this for safety. I'm not concerned about parsing this fight. I'm just concerned about killing the boss. And in this group specifically, one, I'm already wearing healing gear, so my DPS is already screwed. And then two, this group is very geared and very knowledgeable. So me having bad DPS is not going to be a reason for a wipe. Only really if I mess up mechanics. So I'm playing very safe here, which is what I recommend you do, especially on Heroic Lich King. It's a very demanding fight. And until we start getting the percent buffs in ICC, it's going to be a very hard fight to worry about parsing on. It's not something that I do, as in worry about parsing. On the harder fights, I just want to kill it. So what I do here, when there's only one Valkyrie, I put up all my dots and I single target. My dots will probably fall off Lich King here. I don't know. I guess it depends how fast we kill this one. Lots of times my Shadow Word Pain falls off. I just don't care. I just don't care. You know, whatever. I'm a noob. My Shadow Word Pain falls off the main boss. I'm trying to kill the Valks before they reach the ledge. Mind Flay can be good for a slow if for some reason whoever is in charge of slows gets picked up or your backup slow gets picked up. So Mind Flay can be a last resort just to make sure that one of the Valks stays slowed. And then just Defile, make sure you get out of the group. Make sure you have rocket boots. I think I get targeted at some point. Not right here, but at some point in this fight I do. So I rocket boots. That's pretty much it. We kill the Raging Spirit. Be careful when you're tab targeting. Sometimes you can get these Valks that are flying up here. So the difference between normal and heroic is on normal, you actually kill the Valks. On heroic, you bring them to 50%, and then they fly up ahead and start like randomly like shadow bolting people in the raid or something, which is annoying because you can still target them if you tab. So just be careful with your tab targeting. It's kind of annoying if you get them. This is mainly a single target fight, so there's not a whole ton to min-max other than make sure you kill the Valks. So depending on how many Valks are in the group will change how I approach them. If there's one, I full blast single target into it. If there's two, I will put up, so I guess this is still one. Oh, there we go. I get Defile, I boots out. So there's one Valk again, so not a big deal. If there's two Valks, I will usually put up Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch on both, and then probably Devouring Plague. And then I'll just kind of alternate single targeting just depending on whichever one needs more damage on it. And then if there's three, I put VT up on each of them. And the idea is you want your tank to drag the boss so that everybody can cleave off of the Lich King while also killing the Shadow Guards. So assuming that happens, I will then, after getting VT up on all three, I'll Mind Sear off of the Lich King to hit them all until they're like, until the first one hits 50%, and then I start single targeting. Mind Sear is really good if you have three in this group, but that does require your tank on Lich King to drag the boss out. So if they're not doing that, then you would be Mind Searing off of one of the Shadow Guards and hitting two, and especially with your 4-piece, making Mind Flay so much better. At that point, it's probably better to just single target them down. And then that's really it. Play Defile safe. Not a whole lot else. I would say mana can be tough on this fight. I was finding in my gear, obviously not in my healing gear, that I'm showing my gear off right now. You can see I have it all queued to using item rack to swap in my DPS gear. Obviously that can't happen in combat. So at least my mana's fine. But something I would say is if you get picked up, it could be a good time to use, if you get picked up by one of the Valks, it could be a good time to use Disperse just for mana. I was finding I was using mana pots on this fight a lot of the time. Which can suck because on a first kill, DPS can be super tight. On my NA guild's first kill, we hit Enrage for the last like 4%, and we're kiting him around the platform as he just one-shot people. So having as much damage as possible is really important, especially on a first kill. All right, Defile's coming out. I'm just going to take a sip of coffee. This is really just, again, single target with some add cleave. Phase 2. It's pretty easy from a DPS perspective. I'm not saying it's easy at all. I'm just saying the hard thing is dealing with the infests for the healers, making sure everybody gets out for Defile. And you can see I'm mind searing off the boss, but the boss doesn't quite get dragged, so I start single targeting. I guess I mind seared off of the ads there. And and then I start mind searing off of the boss. The tank didn't do a great job, but I guess the ads were dying really fast anyway, so not a big deal. Let's fast forward to the transition. So he'll transition at 40%. Did I get Defile? Oh, I got another Defile. I didn't have boots, so I just slowly troll walked my way over there. Being pre-sped for Defile is really important. A lot of times, or on like the second Valk wave and maybe the fifth Valk wave, it can line up where it can come either before or after the Valk, so it's something to be careful about that you don't pre-spread too early. But if you don't have rocket boots, just making sure that you can run safely away from the group is important. You can see here, I see Defiles coming up, so I get ready to move out just in case I get targeted again, but it was that other guy. I get dots up before the transition. Here, we all jump to the edge. Sometimes I would use Dispersion here. And I think it's fine too. You should have it, you will have it up for your first soak in phase 3 if you use it here for mana. You can see, actually, I'm surprised, in my healing gear, this is the lowest my mana ever got, but I do have Shadowfiend up, so like mana is, again, not really a concern in my current gear here. So again, we're just killing spirits. It's the same thing as before, killing spirits, killing the snowballs, making sure you don't take too much damage from, I guess something I forgot to mention is this shadow AoE. It's a cone ability, so that's why you want everybody spread. Well, you want everyone spread for that, so you don't take too many stacks of the debuff that he gets, because it increases the damage you take. So the more times you get hit, the more damage you take. And then also spread for the ice spheres, because if they target you, you do a pulsing AoE around you. So there's lots of reasons to be spread in this phase. And then you just kill the spirits. It's pretty simple. I gotta sneeze, I think. Nope, maybe not. Okay. Let's keep going. The platform breaks. I get all my dots up on the targets. We're about to get set down into the Frostborn phase. So getting your dots up, I think at some point, maybe just before the transition, they'll start taking 99% reduced damage. But I think your dots, I don't really know. Hold on, do they? Okay, you can see. So yeah, one of them did 34 damage. Not really. I'm not sure which spirit it was, because it seems like some of them might be taking full damage. Maybe it's just the spirits. It seems like it's just the spirits and Lich King's taking full damage. So something interesting that I never even noticed till right now is it doesn't really matter about having dots on the spirits when you go into the Frostborn phase, but I guess you still want them on Lich King. Let's see, I guess for what I saw, he kept taking full damage. I don't really know. All right, the Frostborn phase. As a Shadow Priest, you have two really good abilities here. One is Mind Seer, and the other is Devouring Plague. What I do is I have a mouse over macro for Devouring Plague, so that I can just, as I'm running, just like move my mouse and just spam my R button, which is Devouring Plague, and then just try to pick off as many of these as I can. Mind Seer I haven't had as much success with, but I know Mana Slave, the other Shadow Priest in Nota, uses it really well. I just haven't seen phase 3 as much, so I haven't had as much practice here. But essentially, so you're all going to stack up on a mark, which is circle in this case, and then you move, because these little purple things are bombs falling from the sky, and they will spawn randomly around the room and also where people are standing. So it's whoever is your mark's job to make sure that they're guiding you safely through this area without getting hit by bombs. And you will pause at certain points, which are times when you can use which are times when you can use Mind Seer, which would be like right now, but there's not a ton of ghosts here. So you can see I'm just mouse overing Devouring Plague and just spamming that as much as I can. I try to Mind Seer, I just don't quite get it off. There's just not a ton. With Starfall from Boomies is amazing at killing them. Hunters are really good. And I think mages are using Ice Lance. But you can see I'm just trying to pick them off with Devouring Plague. We come out, there's a Defile. Now here it's really just all about, I guess, multi-dotting. The way Nota's done this in the past is they've left this fourth spirit alive, but we decide to kill it just because everybody has so much more damage than before, because we started getting 4-piece. So here, really multi-dotting and trying to position yourself well. So the way we do this phase is, let's back up a second. The Lich King is over here. He's going to spawn these Vile Spirits here. And they're in the air and they slowly come down. If they hit anybody, they'll explode. So it's going to be my job to soak them once they've reached the ground. So we're going to drag the Lich King across. We're going to drop a Frost Trap. And then that will slow them. And eventually, once they get to the ground, I can soak with Dispersion. But here, again, I don't care so much about my DPS, especially because I'm wearing my healing gear. So I'm just trying to play it safe. I'm trying to make sure that I do my soaks because everybody else is going to carry the DPS here, not me. So I'm like, at this point, I'm trying to see. So you can see like some of these spirits are still high in the air. These guys have come to the ground. I'm about to run into soak. I just want to wait because you only have 6 seconds with dispersion to soak. So you don't want to, it's possible if they're still in the air that you just can't hit them. You're just not going to be able to reach them. So I wait and then they come in and I soak. You can see I missed this one. Let me back up a second. This one of these guys was still high. I think it's this one. So I go under him and you can see I don't actually hit it. The booming knocks him back. So I missed that one. Somebody else gets it. Actually, it might have killed Vasco there. It seems like it did. It's going to happen sometimes. I didn't call for the knockback, and that's one of those things where I think he got scared because the ghost got kind of close. But it's like you can't soak until they get to a certain elevation or like lack of elevation. I don't know, when they get to the ground. So like there's like a certain timing involved where it's like you don't want to do it too late because if the ghosts get too close, they'll explode the raid. But you don't want to do it too early because then you just won't be able to soak them. It's something you kind of got to feel out. Again, so like right here, if you can mind sear pretty much as soon as you get in, that's really the best time to use it. And maybe that's something I need some practice with. I haven't really done that before. I always just try to find the mark immediately and get there. I think I could probably be a little bit more conscientious of where bombs are and stuff in my own placement. I haven't seen this phase that much. My guild on NA for our progression pretty much got to this phase like 3 times, and then we just killed the boss after that. So like I don't have as much phase 3 experience as a lot of the other guys in this group. So it's just something to keep in mind that this phase really does take practice. The unfortunate thing is it's 11 minutes into the fight to get here, so there's a lot that's going on before you can even start to practice this phase. But I really do like the mouse over macro for DP. I think at the very least, that's something that you should have. It's going to help tremendously, especially for ghosts that get kind of close. Because again, these are the same things that are outside. If they get close to the group, they'll explode. So you just want to pick them off the best you can. And then it's just rinse and repeat. We keep doing this, keep your dots up on the boss, single target, get ready to soak. I will soak this group. You can see this group comes down lower a little bit sooner, it seems like, than the last group. I'm not quite sure why. I could have been positioning. The Lich King was a little bit better, so he was like further back on the platform, which means the ghost had to come further to reach us. But you can see here, it's an easy soak. Let's see, I think that was a Paladin that got that other one on the side. But, that was kind of like a picture perfect soak. I get all of them except for like 1 or 2, and then you just have a tank go and get the other one. And that's it. Just rinse and repeat. We keep doing this over and over again. We lust when we come out of the next Frostmourne phase. And then GG, the boss is dead. I think actually the boss is at like 11% or something outside of this phase. Here's another soak. You can see at one point I jumped. I jumped because the ghosts are still a little bit above me. So that's something you can do just to get a little bit more elevation. And then they get soaked. And they die. And GG. Sorry, that was a lot more on Lich King than I meant to dive into. So hopefully that was useful. If not, then I'm sorry I rambled. I think it's a complicated fight. And if we're going to talk about parsing it, I don't think that's a conversation that really should be had unless you're in like some of the top guilds right now. Even then, it's like, yes, people are getting their 4-piece and getting a lot more damage, so the fight's going to get a lot easier. But it's still a hard fight, and if you mess something up, it can wipe you. So you just want to be careful. You don't want to be greeting damage too hard if it's going to be detrimental to your raid or to your own focus on what you're doing. This fight is unlike anything else that we've seen in Classic WoW to this point. This is very much a Mythic raid encounter in retail WoW. No other fight is like this. So play safe, play smart, and maybe if you're lucky, you'll do some damage along the way. Anyway, that's all for this video. Again, I apologize for the length. Probably half of it is Lich King at this point, but I hope it was useful. Hopefully, this can help you, if not improve your parse, at least maybe play a little bit safer, help your raid progress through some fights. Anyway, that's all for me. My name's Pantsface, and I'll see you in the next one.